Welcome to MacGyver's Workshop, where you never know what we're going to be working on next. If you're not too careful, you just might learn something.
Hi there. Welcome back to another episode of MacGyver's Workshop, where you never know what we're going to be working on next, and if you're not too careful, you just might learn something. So we're on the Ole Blue project, and we are going to take our MacGyvering up a serious notch to 11. In one of my previous videos, I was talking about converting Ole Blue over to having factory air conditioning by basically utilizing all the guts from another donor truck that came with factory air. Now, the problem is, those trucks are getting a little scarce, and the only one I was able to find locally, and this is outside of our other donor truck that we have that was another truck just like this one with no air, was an F-250 diesel. And we basically took everything out of it, dash, controls, you name it. Everything we could get off of it, we got. And the only problem is that the control head, which is here, it goes in the dash, has a extra switch on it for the dual fuel tanks. And this truck is a short bed step side, and it doesn't have that. So what we end up having to do, or what I've come up with, is we're going to take the original overlay from the non-AC truck, and we're going to sand off all the stuff off the back, because it's basically silk screened. So it's like a t-shirt basically, where they just wipe on each layer of ink at a time, and then your light shines through it for your dash lights at night. So I was very fortunate in that I was able to find a new overlay, and I think I got this off of eBay, and I suppose somebody just figured out how to make one and print it on white vinyl. I was originally thinking, I'd like to have found one in black, but as I was talking to the vehicle owner, he said, he says, that's not such a bad idea to have it white, because it'll be a lot easier to see at night. So, okay, cool. I was worried they might be unhappy with that. So, anywho, so what we're doing is we are sanding off the silk screening off the back of the original truck's plate, which doesn't have the hole for the extra switch, which is what we don't want. And by doing that, we manage it with some 500 grit sandpaper, just your regular 500 grit. And I'll show you here on this little piece right here. You just get at it with this 500 grit, and this stuff just comes right off. It's going to take a little elbow grease, but you don't want to use anything coarser than a 500 grit, because we're going to need to polish this back out to get it nice and clear and shiny again. So, and your 500 grit will load up, so you have to keep moving around to get some fresh sandpaper there. But I would say, it's a good idea to do this by hand, at least for the removal process, because if you get a powered tool or drill or something like that, that might be just a little too aggressive and actually get the plastic too hot and burn it, and we don't want to do that. So this is coming off nicely. Like I said, it's going to take a little wee bit of elbow grease, but that's okay. The result is worth the effort. And see, that part's all gone. So I'm going to go sand the rest of this off. I'm sure you don't want to watch me do that. It's kind of like watching paint dry. So I'll be back in a minute. So now we've got all of our silk screen sanded off of our bezel here. You'd almost be forgiven for guessing that this looks kind of like what an old plastic headlight looks like after a few years. And that's exactly why I went ahead and got this. And it's basically just a headlight restoration kit. Now, how effective they are on real headlights, I don't think they're all that great. All the effort you go through for that, you just buy another headlight and you're better off, but that's another video. So, but the cool thing about this is it's cheap, and it comes with everything you need to do this exact job. So what we'll do, we'll dump all our stuff out here. And it comes with a whole bunch of stuff. And what you want to do is either get you a spray bottle. They say a spray bottle if you're doing an actual car headlight, but me, I just got a little lid full of some water. Because essentially we're going to wet sand the plastic to polish it back to, or get it back close to where it's clear again. And they give you a little sanding pad, a little foam back sanding pad, which is neat. And you get your little polishing sponge there. And they give you a protectant sealant wipe. That's to protect the headlight lenses supposedly from, like, UV rays and stuff. And then they have this, but it's essentially plastic polish. They call it a buffing polish. So the first step in what we're going to do here, which is a little different than, say, a headlight, because with the headlight you got to mask everything off and all this, that, and the other. We don't have to worry about that, so because we've just got our flat piece of plastic here that we're going to work on. So the first step that they want you to do is to start with the brown sanding disc. You get a bunch of different color sanding discs here. You got brown, you got gray, and you got blue. And they're just gradually finer grades of wet sandpaper. And they're just cut into a circle with a felt backing, so they stick on this little pad here. And we stick it on there real good. Now I'm going to put it on my little angle grinder here and just keep the RPMs down, because I don't feel like using a big old bulky cordless drill. Alright, so I've got my little die grinder set up here, and it's very important that you keep this wet because you don't want to burn the plastic. That's the whole purpose of wet sanding. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take my finger here and I'm just going to dab me some water all over this. And then we're going to start by just going over this. And like I say, we want to keep it nice and wet. probably why they suggest using a spray bottle. Probably a little easier, but. All right, now we're going to flip it over and we're going to do the other side. This is basically, I think, a 1500 grit, and then it goes up from there to polish. So. You can see it's starting to look clearer already. Then we move up to our gray disc, which is slightly finer yet. Not sure what grit that is. I'd have to go read the instructions. Kind of want to center this on the pad here. You don't want to hit it with the edge of the disc there and scratch up your plastic. And then we'll get her nice and wet again and repeat the process. You see, with each step, it's getting progressively clearer. And then we'll move down to the blue disc, and you can barely feel any kind of grit at all on this. I'm guessing it's a pretty high number, probably maybe 2,000-3,000, something like that. Almost like flat paper. And we'll go over it again. There we go. Yeah, looking nice and spiffy there. Now what I like to do is use kind of like a body shop rag, which is a nice clean lint. Well, this one's not terribly clean, but clean enough. You don't necessarily want to use a shop rag. This is just cotton. It's about the consistency or feel of a t-shirt. And what I'll do is I'll wipe up my water here. Now that I have this lens or bezel or whatever you want to call it, done pretty nicely here, we're going to lay this cotton down here and proceed with that. Now what I got to do is I got to change this over to the buffing pad, put that on there, and then use some of their buffing polish here. So the instructions say to put about a nickel-sized dab of this polish on the pad here, which we will do. Now you don't want to just go firing this thing up, because then you're going to just sling all your goo off of here. So what you want to do, they say, is to kind of mash it down all over the piece and kind of get it soaked into this cushion or this buffing pad. And then we get started. still going to spatter stuff everywhere, but hey. And we'll flip her over and do the same thing on the other side. I used probably a little bit too much last time. Use a little less now. And we'll get started here. Gotta watch for that now. And you just kind of let it dry. You have to wipe all the polish off of you here. And it should kind of dry to a kind of a haze. And then once it dries, then we'll wipe it off and see what we ended up with. Now I'm wiping my polish off here with a nice clean lint-free cloth. It's not abrasive. Now look at that, nice and clear. I've got a couple of little scratches it looks like on here. I'm gonna work on some more, see if I can get those out. Just because I'm being a stupid perfectionist, but yeah. Ain't that pretty? So, we basically went from something like this to this. What, 30 minutes? Yeah, this is MacGyvering of the highest caliber here. So, it would have been nice if I'd have been able to find a actual control panel that was proper and had the right silk screening on it, but that wasn't in the cards because, like I say, these things are getting harder to come by every day. So, you know, these trucks were right around the whole cash for clunkers thing, and a lot of them met that fate, unfortunately, and got crushed. So, you know, it's kind of sad, but we will bring it back and make it look good. So now we've got a little bit of rust on our control handles here, so we're going to clean those up. Just do a light sanding on them before we put anything on the front here, and I'll mask this off and spray them with a little light coat of epoxy paint, and that'll make them look good. And then hopefully I can find some reproduction knobs to slide on here, because the other ones aren't looking too spiffy. So let's get started here on that. And we'll get these fellas all sanded up and mask it and shoot it with a little bit of black. And so I'm going to mask this whole face off here, and I'm going to use frog tape, which is the green. I've not had much luck with the blue, the blue stuff, I've seen the paint soak through that, so I don't know. But I just opt for the frog tape. It's a little more expensive, but that's okay. Now what I'm going to do here, and this is going to be, let me reposition the camera so you can see what I'm doing here. It's really kind of easy. The way to do this, to mask it, is we just go ahead and put your levers you know, in a position to where they're offset from each other so you can paint them. And then I'll just stretch the tape over here and just poke it right down through the tape here. Doesn't have to be pretty. You just want to keep the paint off of everything else. Once we get that in there, oh, listen to that. Somebody's out there showering the coals to something. Doesn't sound like it had too many coals to shower on, but you know, hey, I am living in rural Tennessee here, so it's got a Flowmaster or an open pipe on it with a, you know, 6-inch tip on the end of it, then that makes it go faster. So yeah. What are you gonna do? You just get it mixed up real nice here and cover everything. And then just give her a good shot. Always make sure you shake your paint up really good. Then always give it a blast off to let it bring the paint, make sure the paint's up and through. And then just very light coats. Nothing heavy. You don't want paint running all over the place. These spray cans, you know, they throw a lot of paint out there really quick, so it doesn't take much. And then don't forget to get the sides of your stalks too. And then you just let it dry. And there you go. Good as new. Okay, so our little piece is dry now. What we'll do, we just take our painter's tape off of here. The good thing about painter's tape is it's designed to where it's supposed to come off fairly easy. But it does stick to itself rather well. I'll say that. All right. So we Got that all nice and spiffy looking. Doesn't look like it's got rusty arms on it now. Now comes the tricky part where we lay our overlay on here. Now when you buy this from the seller off of eBay, he tells you that you have to you have to really line it up carefully, because you're basically putting it over just your plain bezel. So you have to make sure you have a light behind it and you line your letters and numbers and everything up. We don't have to worry about that with this, because we're just going to stick this right down onto here. All right, and we'll have it behind this nice pretty clear plastic bezel, so it will stay in good condition and it won't get discolored or boogered up or anything like that. I'm going to start loosening it from its backing here. It's a pretty good quality overlay here. I'm impressed. I mean, he didn't just do this like on a Cricut printer with his laptop or something. This actually looks pretty good, and it's pretty robust looking material. So what we'll do, we'll go ahead and bring our levers over here closer so we can line everything up real good. That's on high. We'll just kind of center it over everything real nice here. Ever so gently lay it down. I don't use my fingers. I'll always use the backing of the label or the overlay, so I don't want to get any schmutz on my nice new overlay here. And we will lay our cover on here. And what I will do, actually, I think that goes which way? Nope, I got it right. Goes there like that. I'm getting it wrong here. Hold on. I didn't have it right, because there's a couple of little locating pins there. And there we have it. And I'll use a little bit of, adhesive to lock that down, that clear lens down. And man, she's gonna look, that thing looks just as good as new. So, thanks for watching. Hope you learned something today. We managed to save ourselves from, an unobtainium replacement part here, and probably saved ourselves a little bit of money in the process. We may have $30 in the whole project here. And, feel free to comment. Like to hear from you, see what you got to say. Also, you can email me at MacGyversWorkshop@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to answer you just as soon as I can. And again, have a happy Labor Day. Stay safe. And if you're out and about, wear your mask. Still got the whole COVID thing going on here in 2020. God knows what our new normal is going to end up being, but, hey, we'll deal with it when we get there. And talk to you later.